morning, everybody. I hope everybody's well today. I hope you guys are all enjoying the weather out there. My name is Chelsea Mann. I'm a signature artist with the Wella Company, and I'm coming to you from my studio in St. Albert, Alberta. I've got some really great stuff for you guys today. I've got a guest joining me today. I'm really excited, but I'm going to bring him on in just a second. But I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for joining me. And I'm so happy to have you guys all here and spending your time with us here today. Okay. Guest on straight away here. He's from our Wella studio in Toronto, a fellow signature artist with the Wella Company. We have Zach Ferguson today. Yay! How's it going, buddy?
Hey, Chelsea. How you doing?
How are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good. I'm just going to adjust my angle here now that you're on. What's going on over there? How are those Leafs playing this season?
Well, the Leafs are out, unfortunately, but
yes,
that's
I know.
okay.
We'll have to go.
Yeah, there's still one Canadian team, so we got to cheer for them. So I'm rooting for them. So
Very
yeah,
good.
I'm good. Good.
So thank you for joining us today, Zach. Again, for those of you that are watching, my name is Chelsea Mann. I'm a signature artist in Western Canada. This is Zach Ferguson. He's our signature artist in Ontario. And we're bringing you guys today face framing with glossing. Now, Zach and I wanted to team up to do this because Zach's an amazing cutter and I primarily do color. So we thought, why not team up and bring this trend to you guys and show you guys how, it can be done in different haircuts and different lengths and with a fringe and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm going to show you guys some color stuff today and Zach's going to show you guys some cutting today. After the fact, guys, if you guys want to be able to watch this back, it's going to go live on Wella Canada West IGTV and Wella Studio TO IGTV. And this is the first in a series of sort of cross country, I would say, sort of team ups that we're going to do. Zach and I are going to team up and do the same trend on curly hair as well, sort of subsequently. So stay tuned for that. But we've got lots of our artists and people that we're going to be bringing to you guys to bring you some of our new trends and our new things and, hopefully do a lot more collaborations. So if you want to talk a little bit about yourself, Zach, go ahead. It's your minute.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Just looking forward to being here today. Like Chelsea said, I'm bringing to you some, just some fresh kind of techniques and some ideas, especially with, getting back, talking about Ontario for a second. Doors are finally opened to all the salons, which is great. It's been a long wait for that. So, everybody getting into the salon and clients are going to be wanting some new and fresh looks. And hopefully Chelsea and I can bring you some quick ideas as to how to, give our clients what they're asking for and give them something fresh and something new in a quick and kind of to the point look. So really looking forward to the next 45 minutes with you guys ish. We'll see how it works. But yeah, lots to talk about and lots to bring to you. So looking forward to it.
Awesome. I definitely tend to be long-winded, so let's go 40 to 45 minutes.
Okay, fair enough.
Very good. Okay, so first, a couple of housekeeping things, guys. I just wanted to say thank you to Wella Canada West for having us, and thank you to Wella Studio TO for letting us take over their Instagram for a little bit this morning. If you guys aren't following Wella Canada West or Wella Studio TO, it's pretty miraculous that you ended up here. But if you don't follow, please do. I'm going to throw up, as soon as I'm done my little segment here, I'm going to put my Instagram handle and Zach's Instagram handle into the comments. Actually, Zach, if you want to throw yours in there right now, it wouldn't be a horrible idea.
I can do that.
And then you guys can follow us as well. If you guys have questions as we go here, please throw them into the comments. Zach's going to be watching the comments while I'm talking and vice versa. We also have some colleagues in the comments, so feel free to ask your questions as we go. Also at the bottom of your screen there's a little, it looks like a thought bubble with a question mark in it. Thank you, Zach. There's our Instagram handles at the bottom there. There's a little thought bubble with a question mark in it, guys. You also can ask those questions if there's stuff you don't want to ask in the comments. If you ask them in the question card, they will come directly to me, and I will happily answer them for you guys. So please feel free to do that. So the first thing that we're going to do, guys, is just talk a little bit about what we're bringing to you guys today. What is face framing with glossing? And this is something that, as Zach said, we have our stylists from across the country that are going back to work. In BC, they've been back to work for a little bit. Here in Alberta, we've just been back for a little bit now, as well, but still getting into the swing of things. Still waiting for our client schedules to sort of normalize. What before was maybe every 6-week appointments, is now everybody sort of all at the same time. We're waiting for them to spread out. So really I find, I don't know about you, Zach, but I find the struggle in the salon is really to, you know, I'm a firm believer that, you know, all good hairdressers are sort of 10 or 15 minutes behind all the time, right? But to be able to put in those, you know, upsell services or those extra services that maybe we would add on to a haircut on the fly, or, you know, that we could add on to a service really isn't possible when you're packing your schedule so tight right now, right? Are you finding that in Toronto there, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And you know, like I said, doors have just opened, you know, for some are just going back this week. So yeah, when we get, you know, when the doors are open, clients are coming in, our schedules are going to be packed, and we want to be able to deliver something that's high impact, but, you know, time sensitive as well, because we know that, you know, clients are backlogged. So we want to make sure that we can give them the looks that they're asking for in a timely manner that also is upselling your ticket. So, you know, it's a great way of the techniques we're going to go over today are just a great way of delivering that to your clients and really giving them what they're asking for. And again, in something that's more of a condensed time to help you, you know, manage your schedule while giving them what they want. So definitely advantageous to what's happening right now.
So one of the ways that we do that, you know, is to create a high impact look with, you know, less effort, right? People say work smarter, not harder. And this is sort of where we're going with this, right? If you're putting a lot of sort of highlights or a lot of color around the face, a client's really going to see that in an impactful way with, you know, less effort on your part as a stylist, less time spent with the client. And we want to make the, you know, the most of the time that we're spending with our clients. We want to have those quality conversations and continue to build those relationships. But the reality is, you know, Toronto hairstylists were off work for the better part of what, 6-7 months, hey, Zach?
8 months.
8 months even? Ugh, that's so crazy. So,
Yeah.
you know, we really want to make sure that we are able to give those high impact looks, but get as many clients in the chair as we can in the immediate, right? So one of the ways that we do that is with face framing color. I know that when I get my hair highlighted, you know, I usually get my hair highlighted a couple of times a year and then I just keep toning it. But one of the things I'll probably do within the next month is have all of my face framing stuff done again, and the rest of my hair is fine, right? So that's one of the ways that we can do high impact color. So that's what we're going to show you guys today. It's a face framing section that's going to allow us to have some impact with less effort and less time spent on our part as a hairdresser. How does that translate to your haircut there, Zach?
Yeah, I mean, realistically, what we're looking at in the salon is that the face framing, anything brightness around the face, even color blocking, it's still huge. You know, it's been huge for a while and it's still maintaining its momentum. So clients are coming in and, you know, we're showing you something that clients are asking for. So, you know, just like you said, Chelsea, if they're not asking for that right away, this is something that we can continue. Just like you said, you know, it's not something that we have to maintain all throughout the hair, but when clients are coming in and getting retouches and so on, something around the face, that's the most important part. That's the focal point to any haircut, any color. So to align with the color, we're going to talk about face framing layers and how the two work together to really give you that finished look that a lot of our clients, especially right now, you know, the commercial look, still long hair, soft fringes, and how it's going to really, or the cut that I'm going to show, and I'm going to just be focusing on the fringe area, is how it's going to be, how it's going to incorporate the color placement that Chelsea's going to show us today. So how the two work together.
I feel like I should prepare you, Zach, the next time I see you. Usually Zach and I see each other several times a year and he cuts my hair when we see each other, but we haven't seen each other in a couple of years now because of the pandemic. I'll tell you, I'm going to have quite a job for you when we see each other again. It's going to be, you know, hotel, wine, and haircuts, right? So we've got a question in the comments here, guys. What is the difference between a wolf and a shag cut? And where would you put the face framing there? So I think if you don't mind, Zach, thank you, Sarah, for that one. If you don't mind, Zach, I think we'll table that one until we get to the cut portion. Yep. Is that all right with you?
Fair enough.
So this is my first mannequin I'm going to show you guys. And I know that this is weird because she has no hair, but this is what I call a 3D head sheet, okay? So this is I'm going to show you guys how to section out your face framing color placement with a 3D head sheet here, okay? So for those educators watching that maybe want to steal this idea, don't consider it theft. This idea doesn't belong to me. All the ideas are out there. This is just a mannequin head that I shaved all the hair off of and then painted it with chalkboard paint from Michael's, two coats. And now I'm using my daughter's sidewalk chalk, okay? So the first thing I like to do when I'm sectioning this out, I always like to, regardless of what I'm doing, regardless of what sectioning I'm doing, I always like to divide the head into either halves or quadrants, classic quadrants. I just find those smaller sections are easier to work with and easier to, as a colorist, easier to connect together. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to do here, guys, based on my bridge of the nose here, I'm just going to take a section that's going to go directly down the middle. Okay, you guys can see that there. Now, usually our section like this, if we're just sort of dividing the section in half, we might end up with a radial section that goes on the highest point of the head from top of the ear to the top of the ear. In this case, instead of stopping, like my line's about here, instead of stopping there about, or even there on the highest part of the head, I'm going to continue my line back just to about there, right? And I'm going to line it up with the ear. So you guys can see here the slope of the ear. So I'm going to line my section up there on both sides. Okay, so what that creates at the back here is a bit of a V. Okay, you guys can see that? Okay, so this section is going to be part of our glossing. Perhaps this has leftover highlights from like before COVID or the last time you were open. Perhaps this needs some gray coverage. We can do that there as well, that's fine. But we're going to section that out, okay? So once we've got that sort of V section at the back and then the two sections in the front, now I need to make a decision about my face frame. And somebody at the salon said this to me, and I love this. Do you want your face frame to whisper, talk normally, or shout, right? So I like, and shout out to Extreme Creations in St. Albert for giving me that one, thank you. I like my face frames to shout all the time. Zach knows this, I only have one volume and it's loud. So, right? So I like mine to shout. So, but if you like yours to whisper, just do, you know, a smaller section. That's totally fine. But what I'm going to do here is draw a section that's sort of parallel. I hope you guys can see that. Parallel to the hairline there, okay? And this is going to be part of my face frame here. Now, where I'm going to connect it, guys, is back to this sort of line here, okay? And I'm going to start to zigzag here. Now, this is the point of the V that I drew in the beginning, okay? So from here, I'm just going to continue this on and then zigzag to the point of my V. So it looks like that. Okay, and we're going to do the same thing on the other side. I'll show you again. So there's my original line, and we're going to zigzag to the point of the V. Okay, and I'll explain the zigzag sections as I get going into my color, but that's what your sectioning should look like on the 3D head sheet. Okay, does that make sense?
That's a great visual.
Thank you.
Great visual.
Thanks.
I'm gonna borrow that.
You got to borrow this. It doesn't belong to me. Totally fine. Okay, so when it's done with hair, guys, this is what the sectioning looks like. Okay, so you guys can see that, you know, there's my zigzags all the way back. Now, when I drew it, I did it all the way to the point. Okay, in this one, I sort of stopped it here simply because I didn't want to have anything behind the ear. Is totally fine. But I've seen people continue this sectioning sort of back here if they want something underneath. Is totally fine as well. The point of this is to be face framing color, but if you wanted to have a little bit underneath as well, it's another couple of foils on each side, totally fine. All I did here was just a simple Dutch braid in the back, guys, to get the hair out of the way. I love to braid hair into a section like that. As a colorist, it's nice and clean and keeps it out of my way, okay? Now, for products, guys, the first thing that we're going to use for our face framing is our free light. So if you guys haven't used free lights, I encourage you to head down to your distributor or call your Wello rep and grab some of this. It's a really beautiful clay lightener. It's a closed system with our Free Lights developer at a 1 to 1.5 mixing ratio. But it's a really beautiful clay lightener to work with and a really nice consistency. I'm gonna work with this today as well, okay? So our clay lightener is a closed system. So be sure that when you're using it with your Free Lights developer, 20, 30, or 40 volume. Okay, so just gonna put my gloves on here. So I am gonna free paint this, guys, and I'm only gonna do a few foils, give you guys the gist of it, because guys, I'll tell you right now, this, I think I said foils. We're not gonna do foils today, I'm free painting this, but I'll tell you guys right now, full speed, if I wasn't teaching this, I could do this in under 10 minutes. It's a really easy, like, and probably a dozen foils, depending on how loudly your face frame is shouting, you know what I mean? So the first thing I'm going to do here, guys, and tell me in the comments if you can't see, okay? First thing I'm going to do is take this section out, okay? And I'm just going to section out what's going to be that really strong front face frame. Okay, I'm gonna get that out of the way and just put this guy up and I'll come back to him. Okay, now this part in the front here, guys, I'm gonna start with this because we always want to make sure that we're paying attention to the brightness in the front here. Okay, now the first thing I'm gonna do this forward so that you guys can see it, but on a client, if you wanted to stand behind the client and do this so that it falls backwards, that's not sitting in their face, that's perfectly reasonable. But for our purposes today, I'm gonna do it forward, okay? Now, what I want you guys to make sure that you're doing is zigzag parting this. Now, Zach, do you wanna speak to why we zigzag?
Yeah, I mean, the zigzag is going to offer a little bit of softness around the area too. We don't really want to create a hard demarcation line, but it's also going to have a little bit of a blending at that root area. Because again, you're looking at what's going on. It is softness. It is transition from darker to lighter in a way that's going to be smooth transition. We don't want it to look like there's a hard stop between depth and lightness. So we want to make sure that that blends between the two in a seamless way. And a lot of times, we can incorporate root shadowing, color melting at the root and so on, but this just helps to create a little bit of that or lessen the demarcation line at the root area, which again, around the face, we always want that softness or that transition from deeper to lighter around the face. So, and it's a great way. The zigzag technique is a very quick approach, and it does just minimize that transition line.
Totally. I love the zigzag too because it creates peaks and valleys. It creates spaces where I can paint up into and places where it's more natural for me to sort of drag my lightener down lower. So we're definitely going to zigzag through this section. You guys can see right now, I'm really just unloading lightener onto the front and back sides of my section. Now, the reason I like to do this is when we're using free lights, we don't necessarily want to have to be pushing lightener in to the hair. You want to sort of apply it and apply enough that it can sort of sit and process, right? So I'm unloading a bunch of lightener. It's sort of like icing a cake. Now I've got enough on here that I can move it around and move it up into my peaks of my zigzag and drag it down from the valleys of the zigzag, okay? I also really love using these angled free lights brushes, okay? They're really, really nice for blending because they have this beautiful point, okay? Now, you guys will see too, I haven't done anything on the ends, and it's because I'm just going to saturate these, so don't overthink that one, okay? Make sure you guys are also blending the underside of your sections as well, okay? Now, this one here, I'm keeping it a little bit further away from the root underneath, just in case she wears her hair up. This is something we would have discovered in consultation. But on top, I'm going to blend it up a little bit higher, but that's really up to your discretion, how high or low you're doing it. I used to work with a guy years ago who only did like super tight balayages. That's okay too, but it's really up to what the client wants to see, okay? So I've unloaded my lightener. I'm moving it around, making sure that I'm blending. I'm making sure that the underside of my section is covered, and then I'm going to saturate my ends. Now, if you are worried about, how it's going to look when the client puts her hair up, maybe she goes to the gym, maybe they just have told you that they wear their hair up a ton. If you're afraid that it's not going to look blendy, one of my favorite tricks is just to add a couple rows of back-to-back like micro lights right before I do this free painting to allow it that blendability. Okay, now you guys saw me paint onto my hand, onto the back of my hand there. This is something that I do quite a bit. I do a lot of free painted hair. So if you are using other techniques, that's okay as well. Just make sure you're wearing your gloves. It's just good practice, guys. Okay. So my next section here, I'm just going to take another zigzag section. Now, I'm going to make sure though, guys, you guys can see here where my zigzag section is. I'm going to make sure that those peaks and valleys, that I'm not zigzagging into them. Okay, I'm going to try to do a completely sort of random zigzag so that the peaks and valleys are in different spots. Okay. So now I'm going to do a back comb, okay? Now we back comb to help us with blending, okay? But I like to do really tight back combs. So like just a couple little sort of back combs and keep the nest that I create sort of nice and tight there, okay? Now you guys can see here, there's not a lot of like crazy nesting there. It's just a little bit to help me with blending. And then I'm going to do the rest with my lightener. So again, I've got a good amount of lightener on my brush. I like to pinch and hold between two fingers, and I'm just gonna unload my lightener. Now, because the one underneath is dragged down a little bit lower, this one I'm gonna do up a little bit higher, okay? Again, unloading some lightener onto the hair here. The other great thing about working with Freelights, guys, is that Freelights has a technology in it called ActiFuse that really helps it to be adhesive to the hair. So it's nice that I can unload that amount of lightener onto my section and it's not going anywhere. It's not going to move, right? So I'm just, again, unloading some lightener onto my section. Now I've got enough here that I'm going to start to blend. So I'm blending in again to my peaks and dragging down from my valleys. And we're going to get some blending done. Again, guys, if you are just joining us, my name is Chelsea Mann. I'm a signature artist in Alberta. I'm here with Zach from Wella Studio TO. It's the signature artist in Toronto. And we're talking about face framing, cut, and color today. If you guys need to watch this video back, it is going to be available Wella Canada West IGTV, Wella Studio TO IGTV, and you also can check us out at our Instagrams that Zach dropped into the comments earlier. Okay. Nice thing about Freelights here too, guys, is that I can do my sections and drop them and they won't bleed. It's a really, really beautiful lightener to work with, guys. Okay. So I'm just going to quickly show you one of my side sections and then I'm going to let Zach take over and talk to you guys about cutting. What do you have planned for cutting, Zach?
Yeah, to be honest, I'm just gonna show, because we're talking about face framing, how we can incorporate some sort of longer face framing layers and how it's really gonna work in synergy with the color applications that you're doing. And again, it's something commercial. It's something that a lot of clients are asking for, but also for something that's versatile. And I'll show you, or I'll speak to you a few different ways that we can manipulate that fringe, whether that be a little bit shorter of a texture, different effect. But again, of course, it's going to work with the color placement. Everything that we do, we have to make sure that the cut is going to, accentuate the color. And you don't want one to overpower the other. We really want them to work together to give a beautiful finished result. So it's a really simple technique that I'm going to show. But again, it's going to be showing how this look that Chelsea's currently doing is going to just incorporate layers around the face. Perfect.
So a couple points about my side sections here, guys. I've taken a diagonal section, and it's hard for you guys to see on Instagram, I know, but I've got a significant, I hate this word, but I'm going to use it anyway, chunk of hair in my hands right now. And it's okay. I've, backcombed a little bit of the density of it out, okay? But we want to have, because we're hoping that this is going to be, or we know this is going to be high impact color, it's okay that we're using a bigger section. Maybe if you're nervous about it being a bigger section, you're going to take your fingers and sort of separate it, maybe do a little bit of finger painting. That's okay too, guys. We're not, the days where we have, super rigid rules around application are gone. Like, we have very, strong manufacturers' guidelines around how we use our lighteners and, about, product usage, things like that. But we also believe at Wella that, if you have something that's working as far as application, you should keep doing it. If you're somebody who can do wicked, like, painting with your fingers, go for it. We support the hairdresser, and we want to see you guys, show us your art and how you do it. So please make sure that you're doing that. Do what feels right for you.
Absolutely.
So I'm painting both sides of my section here, and now I'm, again, at a space where I'm going to saturate. So I'm going to saturate my ends here, and I'm going to let it drop. So through the rest of my section, I would have done this same thing. I'm going to take my diagonal sections and paint peaks and valleys, high and low, make sure that it blends. And then we will talk about glossing afterwards when Zach has done his segment about cut. So take it away, Zach. I'm going to keep painting.
All righty. Well, then I should show my before, or should I go right into the cut? I'll show the after. No, I'm going to show you exactly kind of what I'm looking at first, and talk about how we can kind of alter the different fringe while I'm cutting it. Okay?
Do it.
So I have an after here that's going to kind of showcase exactly where Chelsea's hair color is placed. So right now, I'm just going to raise her. I'm a little bit low here. Okay. So what we're looking at here, as you can see, as I'm pulling away the fringe area, you can see the brightness that I've done the exact same color technique that Chelsea's done. So you can see the brightness all underneath, all towards the back, right? So as it's working its way down. So there's brightness around the face, just like we talked about kind of face framing, right? So we can see this brightness. But now I want to talk about how we can incorporate a fringe that's going to accentuate the color placement. So you can see here, there's quite a bit of layering that's working with the hair color itself, okay? So I'm going to show you how I can incorporate this kind of fringe look in a very, very easy and efficient way to give you a high impact look. So just going to switch out mannequins here.
That
Don't mind
tone
me.
is beautiful on that after mannequin, Zach.
Yeah, I'll speak to that when we're talking about toning at the end here.
Woohoo!
But, okay. So right here I have a sectioned out mannequin. And again, I'm just focusing on the fringe area. So it's not going to be overly sectioned. Typically when we talk about fringes, we have the idea that we have a triangle section that's kind of like eyebrow to eyebrow. That's what we speak about a lot. However, in this case, I'm going slightly wider than. So if you see here, this is just another triangle section, but I'm slightly wider than the eyebrow. That's just because I want the layers to kind of cascade into the side as well. So again, it's just a very simple sectioning pattern. I am at the apex of the head, so that's the highest point of the head. We can't take a section past that when we're talking about the fringe, otherwise it's going to fall to the side and kind of distort the shape that we're trying to produce. So what I'm going to do is slightly different today as well, is I'm going to be using a razor. The reason being is because when I talk about fringes or when we're cutting fringes, there's an element of softness that we want to have that's going to, that the razor is going to help add softness while I'm cutting my shape. So typically I use scissors, and if I'm producing a stronger shape, something with a little bit less texture, I'm going to want to use the scissor for that stronger foundation. But in this case, anytime around the face and I want to have that softness, I am going to utilize my razor. So I'll quickly talk to you how I'm going to do this. Hopefully, sorry, the split screen is slightly different because I'm working on a smaller scale here.
Okay.
So when we're talking about fringes, the first that I'm going to do here, the first section I'm going to take is right down the middle, because this is going to be my guide for the rest of the fringe look, okay? So I'm taking a quick section right down the middle. I'll just twist her here. So I can see I have a section right down the middle, which is going to be my guide that I'm going to then incorporate into both sides, okay? And again, this is something that's done relatively quickly, and I would be doing this while the hair is damp, so after the color and the shampoo and conditioner. What I'm going to be doing in the first section here is you want to think about where you want the shortest length. Now this technique can be done on really, really short kind of curtain fringes or really textured around the eyebrow, bridge of the nose look. But in this case, I'm going to leave it slightly longer because it does speak to the color a little bit more than having a really, really, really short fringe, which I'll talk about in a second. So in this case, what you want to keep in mind is that the styling afterwards and how the client's wearing it. A lot of times we're looking at, split down the middle and some waves, or even if it's straightened, we still want to make sure that if we're taking the section down the middle, that when we move that to the left or to the right, it's going to shrink because of distance, right? So I always say you can cut more, you can't put it on. So in this case, we'll leave it a little bit longer. Typically, I aim for the lip area if I want something that's going to work with while I'm waving it. So I'm working at the lip section, and I'm going to be using my razor, coming in very, very gently. So right now I'm adding texture towards the end and softness while I'm removing the length. So there I've just taken off. That's going to be my guide now. And you can see the ends are very kind of soft and a little bit more textured, which helps when we're talking about softness around the face. So once I've done this first section, I'm going to remove one side of that. Okay. And I'm going to just work on one side first. So what I'm doing, and hopefully you can see this, what I'm going to be doing now is I'm going to take a diagonal section. Okay. And I'm going to incorporate that diagonal section into the guide that I've just placed. So you should be able to see my guide here. You might be able to. And now I have the longer length. What I'm now going to do is over direct. So I'm using over direction. The reason why I'm using over direction is to maintain length as I get towards the perimeter. So I'm over directing now to the other side. I'm going to find my guide, and I'm going to now slowly start incorporating that into the sides. Very simply, I'm taking parallel sections to that, and I'll be over directing. So I've just taken a parallel section. I can still see my guide. I'm over directing. I'm coming in with the razor blade, and I'm slowly removing that length while adding texture. Same idea, diagonal section, over directing. The over direction is going to help to maintain a little bit of length towards the sides. And just incorporate some layers in and around the face. Okay. I'm on my last section here. And again, this is a very quick approach. And depending on what your client is asking for, like I said at the top of this, is that we can cut this shorter. We can leave it longer. If I was to cut it shorter, I would be getting more of a mullet, really, really short kind of to longer effect. So depending on what your client's asking for, you can manipulate this in many different ways. Let's see, if I was to comb this down now, you can see a very, very short to long, simple way of delivering texture while producing a shape. I will quickly do the other side. It's a very, very fast approach. Can we see this?
I think it's funny too with a fringe like that. I'm always surprised. I know watching you cut, Zach, it's always, you always say, this is going to create this look. But then when it sort of comes out, I'm always sort of shocked. I don't know like why, but like that shape that you have such a good grasp of in cutting is like so magical to me.
Well, thanks, Chelsea. To be honest, what it is I'm just following. I'm understanding the shape, the head shape, how I'm over directing and using over directions to really give me the look that I want. And when you're looking at a visual, so when clients are giving us a picture and a visual, a lot of times we're seeing this softness around the face. So how do I do that? I know that it's going to be the shortest point is going to be in the middle. The longest point is going to be towards the end. So how can I manipulate the hair to give me that look? And a lot of times, like I just said, I'm using over direction to really just build that shape. The reason, again, that I'm using the feather blade or the razor is to just give me softness while I'm doing that. I can do this with a scissor for those that prefer to use a scissor. But like I said, if I want something that's going to be textured and kind of softness, I might as well do or use a tool that's going to give me 2 for 1. Right? And my last section here. Again, I'm just over directing. Now what happens if you don't over direct? What you can possibly do is remove too much length, and therefore it doesn't have the softness that we're kind of aiming for. So last section, just bear with me, Chelsea.
That's okay, you do you. I'm learning as we go here.
So it's great because I've done all of this technique off of one guideline, right? So the guideline is all your starting point. And same thing here. If I comb this down, you can see the shape that's running shorter to longer. The only thing I want to make sure is that my length on the side is the same. So this was a touch longer. So there we go. Okay. So once you've established that, and you kind of use you use your mirror and you kind of open this up and you're really looking at what you just produced. So what I like to do too, and a lot of times client or stylists do the fringe last. to me, it's the most important part. So with Chelsea's color, you know, high impact around the face, want to do something that the client's going to be looking at while we do the rest of the haircut. So once they're kind of like, oh, I like this, I like the look of this, I like the shape, then they feel comfortable and confident with what you're doing in the back. So a lot of times we start back here and we end up rushing the fringe. I like to start at the fringe because that's the most important part. That's what the client sees. That's what most people see when we're, you know, face to face with people. So it's how I can do this and then, you know, manipulate the back however I want. But let me just show you again, switching back to my pre-done, the magic of Instagram. So again, now I've just incorporated these shorter pieces. So down around the lip where I talked about, and how that is just melted into the side. To be honest, I haven't really done any layering in the back, but it just gives it, you know, a little bit of that shape that's going to accentuate Chelsea's color placement. And you can see here, same color placement and how it works with the haircut.
And work smarter, not harder, right? Like what a
Work
small
smarter, not
sort of
harder.
what a small sort of thing to do, but what an impactful sort of finish. And I love that's going to be the pro tip of the day here. I think pro tip of the day for color is unload your brush. Pro tip of the day for cutting, and I'm totally going to steal this, is do the fringe first, and maybe even like, I don't know, like maybe agree or disagree, Zach, but it seems like it would be a cool idea to even like blow dry and maybe give a quick flat iron to your fringe as well as soon as it's done before you do the rest of the haircut. Because you're right, then instead of sitting there with a cape on and, you know,
My hair's wet.
That's the thing. I know about the rest of you. I never feel great about myself when I'm looking in the hairdresser mirror when it's, do you know what I mean? But that would be a great thing to do. Give them a little bit of like a finish and then finish the rest of your haircut. I love that.
Yeah, and it's a thing that I learned with, you know, over the years that they're sitting there, they're looking at themselves for an hour, and 9 out of 10 times we start in the back. But when we're talking about techniques, so this technique is basically a rounded shape. And, you know, when we get into the cut craft methodology and talking about cutting and fundamentals of it, a rounded shape typically starts in the front anyway. So a lot of the haircuts that we're seeing are a rounded shape, whether that's longer, whether that's shorter. And like I said, this can be done on a shorter aesthetic, same technique, but yeah, starting in the front, letting that dry and having that client feel confident while they're sitting there for the next hour. And to your point, yeah, you can absolutely blow dry that fringe, you know, and then worry about the back after the fact. So test it out, see how that works with your clients. I think they'll enjoy that.
Yeah. And, you know, and I think it's, yeah, like I said, such a high impact, you know, thing to do. And I think with color, people just expect to, you know, if there is a mirror at your color bar, people expect to sit there and look crazy with their foils in their hair. It's not, they're not looking at it, you know, thinking that it's unfortunate, right? But if you can get to their haircut and do that for them, I love that. I'm just going to throw back to Sarah's question here, Zach, before we do our finish stuff. What is the difference between a wolf and a shag cut, and where would you put the face framing, you know, when you're doing that?
So I mean, the funny thing with the hair industry is that we tend to name things. So, I mean, if you break it down, what is the wolf? What is the wolf kind of aesthetic, or what is the wolf look? To me, the way I understand it is the wolf look is just really, really short on the side, and then to more of an exaggerated kind of mullet type feel in the back. However, it's more worn up, almost like, I guess, like a wolf's hair, where it's the majority of the length is towards the back. So to speak to that, it's a slightly different approach. There's not much fringes, would be more worn up in the wolf kind of aesthetic. But if you're talking about a shag look is really the same idea, just brought that much shorter. So if I was to take this, instead of taking the lip as my guide, I would be using like the bridge of the nose as my guide. That would therefore just shrink all of this up, and the same, you know, the same sectioning pattern is going to shrink all of the side layer as well, while maintaining length in the back. Because I've over directed, that's what's happening. You're going to maintain length towards the back. So it's all, you know, all of these names and all of these looks, when you break it down, fundamentally, they're all the same techniques that we do anyway. It's just exaggerated. So, you know, using it, pushing the limits, taking it shorter, you know, but foundationally, they're all relatively the same. Like, it kind of answers the question, but kind of doesn't, just because, again, the wolf the wolf word kind of is just an interesting one.
Back in the day, we used to call it the scene haircut, right? And I think
Yeah.
that, right? I think it's funny, I think, Zach, you just inadvertently, or maybe on purpose, aged both of us.
Oh,
That, and maybe it's part of the craft thing as well. Maybe it's just that, like, when, you and I are very, well, you're a cutter and I'm a colorist, we're very sort of technique-based hairdressers. We're very sort of craft-based people. So for us, it's about that shape and the sectioning and how these sections are working together, and the relationship between cut and color and the detailing and all of those things, that the new generation, I call them baby hairdressers, of having to name everything, I think is sort of foreign to us, because for us, you're right, everything fits into those sort of like shape technique sort of boxes, right? But it's I love the people on TikTok that are doing the wolf haircuts. It just makes me happy, right?
yeah, and we have social media to thank for that, for sure.
Right. So Sarah says back, so really it's just about the length of where the shag starts. And I think, it is very much, about, like maybe not a little bit about where the shag starts, but also sort of how short or long it is in certain sections, right?
Yeah, and to be honest, like I left it longer just because it spoke to what's going on commercially and how we use most of the time the face framing. Again, yeah, the shag would be a kind of a whole different live that we can definitely do, and how we can incorporate the same kind of color or a little bit different down the line. We can definitely unpack how we would approach that as well.
Totally. So let's talk about our finished looks here. So I've got a finished mannequin here, guys. I'm just going to turn my ring light on. You guys can tell me if it's better or worse, I guess. Is that better, Zach? Can you see it better now?
It's a little bit, oh yeah, there, when we turn to the side. Yeah.
There we go. Okay, so you guys can see here sort of, I've obviously waved this and put some shine products in it, but you guys can see how sort of blendy and livable and natural looking, this is. Now I did this with free lights, and this was toned in a gloss with our Illumina 8-stroke 05, and I'll speak to glossing in a second. But it's in this way, it's intended to be more sort of blendy and natural looking. That's the light side of your part. Oops. And then on your heavier side of your part, again, we see lots of color as the hair sort of moves around, lots of good relationship with the haircut, lots of beautiful shine, right? Beautiful. So again, guys, I would have done this if I was doing this in foils. This would have been done in about a dozen foils in about 10 minutes. So like very easy to add onto a haircut or to add onto a service, up those dollars per ticket. Now I did this one sort of more blended sort of on purpose, but if you wanted to use our brand new Blonde Orplex and have something that's going to be more high impact, that's going to be more contrasting and all of that, you can use your more powerful lightener to create those looks as well. Okay, so don't think, again, guys, anybody that's been on my lives before knows that I feel this way. Don't feel like you need to have have everything look more natural or follow everything that we say. We want you to make it your own, right? Now the other thing I wanted to quickly talk about, guys, is afterwards when we do this, if you've done a gray coverage as well, if you've done a root, if you put all your lightness in, we need to tone it afterwards. But what a great idea to maybe gloss the whole thing instead. So instead of doing just your regular toner, you can take your beautiful Illumina color. This is my favorite Illumina shade. It's 9-stroke 60, and you can mix it 1 part color to 1 part developer to 1 part post color treatment. Okay, if you guys haven't tried this, I encourage you guys to do it. It is a really, really great way to have your permanent colors, act a little bit more in a glossing and a caring sort of way, and use them as a toner. So it's going to create this nice sort of blended all around look. So if I was doing a gray coverage root, I'd do that first, put my free paint or my foils in, depending on what lightener I'm using, process it, and then afterwards I'm going to do a gloss, but I'm going to gloss the whole thing. Now, this was an 805, and it lightened up to about a level 8, but my base is about a level 6. So some people might say like, oh, it's not going to have an impact of a level 6. You're right that it's not going to deposit the amount of pigment that it would on my pre-lightened pieces, obviously, but it's going to create more of a cohesive sort of finish with the brown and the blonde, or the lighter pieces sort of blending together a little bit more, because I glossed the whole thing instead of just keeping it on those highlighted pieces. Okay, it creates that more natural looking sort of finish, and really to blend in with the beautiful haircut that Zach is doing, we really want everything to be cohesive in the end. Okay, I hope that that makes sense for glossing services, guys. If you missed it, 1 part color, 1 part developer to 1 part post color treatment. It's a really beautiful thing. If you haven't tried it, I encourage you to do that. Okay. Any final
Absolutely.
thoughts there, Zach?
No, I think I think you hit the nail on the head with the approach and how it's versatile. Though I think that when we're talking about versatility, it's massively important. Now, Chelsea, you showed if you wanted high impact, but we also know that clients may not all want that high impact, and you spoke to that earlier, that you can adjust it. You can adjust it depending on client's hair density, hair texture. So you're looking at a variety of different approaches. Same kind of application method. However, depending on the client, it can be altered to suit their needs or their individual hair needs, to be honest, like I said. And same with the haircut. It can be manipulated in different ways. So we showed one technique, but we discussed about how you can utilize it in many different facets and to give a variety of different looks and aesthetics. And to, like you said, with the glossing, you have a myriad of different options in tonality, tones and tonality that you can give to your clients that are still going to have that high impact, but whether or not you want it a little bit more, I guess, softer, or if you wanted a little bit more of that contrasting look. But I think that all in all, I think that was great. And again, fast approach to something that clients are asking for. Mm-hmm. So I hope that the haircut helped. And again, quick, easy, try it, see what you think. And obviously, if you have any questions, you can definitely reach out to myself. Like Chelsea said, we have both of our names attached to the comment list. So if you have any questions about the cut, questions about the color, please ask both of us. But I think that was great. And I'd like to thank you, Chelsea, for allowing me to join you on Canada West. Thank you to everybody who's watching this now and to those who will watch it later. I hope everybody's doing well. And I think that from my end, that's it for me.
Very good. Thank you so much for joining us today, Zach. Let you get back to your baby and your Toronto-ness. Thank you for joining us today, and go Habs go. Yeah. But yes, to everybody that's watching, thank you guys so much for joining us today. Thank you for Zach for being here. Thank you for everybody in the comments that interacted with us. We will be back, guys. I only partially talked to Zach about this, but I'm going to volunteer you we're doing this, Zach. We will be back subsequently, probably sometime within the next month, to do the same technique again on curly hair, and Zach's going to show you guys some cutting techniques on curly hair as well. If you guys like to hear more from Zach about cutting stuff, please head over to wellaed.com and check out the offerings that we have for our cut craft seminars. They do happen in the studio in Toronto. Zach also, when we are able, can sort of travel around and teach cut craft in the field as well. So if you want to learn, if you want to know how to cut like Zach, he'll come to you, right? When we can, when it's time.
When it's time.
Yeah, right? We look forward to seeing you guys again. Please stay tuned to Wella Canada West and Wella Studio TO. I pinned our Instagram handles on the bottom there. Like Zach said, please feel free to follow us or interact with us whenever you have questions. And if you guys learned anything today, please make sure that you share that, because if you hoard your knowledge, it is wasted. You are not the owner of it, only the caretaker. So we appreciate your time today, guys. Stay safe out there. And one more time, go Habs go. Bye.
Bye, guys.